lockdown. You're feeling gross. You're so bored you look like you've seen a ghost. It's time to do that thing you love the most. That's right, it's time to meet the host.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Monday Music Mayhem's Meet the Host, hosted by the hosts, which is me, the host, Rob, and him, the host,
Matti.
Today on Meet the Host, we will be learning all about the host and the other host and the first musical instruments that the hosts, i.e. us, ever learned, and the riveting tales behind that. So, without further ado, Matty Scott, what was the first instrument that you ever learned?
The first instrument I ever learned was actually a guitar. I'm a keyboard player, but the first thing I ever had was a guitar for Christmas. I've still got it. Wait, I'm gonna grab it. It's not. Here we go.
This is fantastic, unprecedented. I didn't know this was going to happen.
Ooh.
Wow, that's nice for a first guitar.
It's all right. It's not. It's tuned as in not like the normal way anymore. But it does me well. It has a very twangy sound to it. But yeah, I really like it.
Amazing.
But I couldn't really learn very quickly on it at first, and it was only when I started going on keyboards that I kind of picked it up the way I did.
And what age were you when you got that guitar?
I think I was maybe 14 or 15.
Right, nice. Well, you've done incredible things in the years that you've been a musician. I expected that you'd been the kind of virtuoso who'd been playing since birth.
No, when I was doing my GCSEs, I was originally down to do business studies because I couldn't play much. But then I had a friend in the music class, and he was like, "No, you'd be fine." And I really didn't like the business class, so I swapped over. But I always thought if I didn't do that, I wonder where I'd be now. If I'd be running businesses, being a big corporate accountant.
You wouldn't be dressed like Zorro.
No, maybe
that
not.
way.
You've ruined my identity.
Nice. Well, similar to you, the first instrument that I ever learned to play was the guitar. Unfortunately, I don't have my first ever guitar to hand because I'm not as well prepared as you. But it was bought for me, I think, when I was about 7 or 8. So I was pretty young, and it was like from Argos. It was a small Spanish style nylon stringed acoustic guitar. And I first started to learn classical guitar. So I would put my guitar on my left knee and I would hold it quite upright.
Did you have a little foot stand?
Yeah, I had a footstool.
Nice.
And I learned to finger pick. And I think the first thing I can remember learning to play was the song "Ode to Joy." I don't know if you know it. Yeah, banger. And I liked playing guitar, but I wasn't like that excited by the things that I was learning because, as with most people who first start playing guitar at a young age, I just wanted to rock out pretty hard. So I changed guitar tutors and started to learn something a little bit closer to the music that I was interested in.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's ever seen the film School of Rock, the character of Zach Mooneyham quite famously says, "I used to play classical, but now I play rock." And that is the story of my life. Me and Zach Mooneyham are kindred spirits.
I really like that. Did you ever see that he got arrested for stealing guitars in Guitar Center?
You're joking.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, I wish you'd never told me that.
It's quite sad, but it's also kind of like he didn't give up his love of guitar, which is
Also
nice.
his rebellious nature, because in that film he's kind of saying like he doesn't do his homework, does he, and all those things. Oh wow!
Exactly.
Oh, it's a revelation. Emotional. You can't see the tears behind the Zorro mask, but
No.
I am.
You can't show the weakness when you're saving the city.
Exactly. And then going like this. with a pointy sword.
Exactly.
So at what point did you start to learn to play the keyboard then?
So there was like a talent show in school. I think I was 15. Yes, I would have got my guitar at 14, I think, or early 15. Um, and I had a friend who actually played guitar, and he was like, "Oh, let's do a band." And he was the only one who could actually play any instruments. And the closest thing I kind of knew was keyboards, because there were keyboards around in the school, and you do them like really basic keyboard lessons in school. So I was like, yeah, I'll just play keyboards, it'll be fine.
Were
And then we
you
wrote a song.
were the keyboards at your school? Did they have the DJ function? So you
Yeah,
go
of course.
DJ.
Yeah. If any school doesn't have the DJ function, you should swap schools instantly. Yes, you're gonna have horrible music lessons. It's just a fact.
If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, in the 90s when me and Matty were at school, the kind of plinky plonky toy keyboards that each classroom were fitted with, were all kind of equipped with this DJ mode where if you pressed the DJ button, it went DJ, DJ, and then there were all these, yeah, all these kind of samples of odd sounding American people going like, yeah, and stuff like that,
I
which
really loved it.
it was great. Yeah, I think it may have been school music lessons that encouraged me to play keyboards a little bit more. Not because my teacher did, because to be quite frank, he was pretty useless. But I was fortunate enough that growing up, I had a piano at home because my brother and sister both had piano lessons from an early age, and I never wanted to because I didn't think it was very cool to learn to play piano, which is one of my biggest regrets. If anyone is interested in music and is toying with the idea of learning the piano, do it because pianos are really cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
But yeah, I could play a little bit of stuff that my brother had taught me, like just like a Coldplay piano riff or something recognizable. And then in school, people were really amazed by that because there were no other keyboard players in my music class, and they all thought I was really good. So at that point, I was like, oh, I can impress people here. So I'll
We had that with a
persevere.
drum kit. We had one drummer who wasn't very good, but he was young, and he just started learning. But he came in one day and he was like, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" Then he taught me it, and it felt so good. I was like, "Yeah, that's right. I'm playing
It's
the
good
drums."
though, isn't it? Like I do think that music's one of those things where if you get the basics of something, it takes you a long time to learn basics on a new instrument. But for non-musicians, if you play something quite simple, they're quite often very impressed, and that's really encouraging. So if anyone watching is in the early stages of learning an instrument, it can be really frustrating. Like I used to kind of get really like anxious about going to my guitar lessons because my hands weren't big enough to do full chord shapes, and bar chords and things were difficult. But persevering to a point where you can play something to impress your friends gives you a real kind of boost. So it's a nice thing to do. But just don't be that guy who turns up at every house party and plays Wonderwall on the acoustic guitar.
No, do. It's a really cool guy. You should be that guy. No.
So I guess that concludes the little chat that we've planned about our first instruments and the progression there. But it's probably worth mentioning that once you get one instrument down to a kind of intermediate level, it's a lot easier then to migrate to different instruments once you kind of understand a little bit of theory. You can find where the notes are on a different instrument, and it kind of makes more sense that way.
It's more learning your way around the instrument than learning how to play the basics again.
Yeah, unless it's violins, in which case, hard work.
Have I told you about my erhu? I've got
No, I haven't. I'd love to know.
It's a Chinese 2-string violin. I'm trying to learn to play. It's so hard.
Wow, that sounds really difficult to play. I've only ever attempted to play the violin a handful of times, and
Good fun.
each time it sounded really, really, really very bad.
Yeah, it's the worst instrument to be bad at for sound, I think.
That or kind of reed instruments.
Yeah.
Like if you've never played a saxophone before and you try and get a sound out of one, it's not good. In fact, a housemate of mine had a saxophone at university, and I tried to play it one day, and another housemate of mine who was in the room below put a message in the house WhatsApp which said, "What's happening upstairs? It sounds like a sad tugboat is here," which I've always thought was a very funny way of describing music.
Yeah, I like it. You should keep that one in mind for like a song name or something.
Sad tugboat cometh. Right, well, let's wrap things up because eventually what we'll start doing is giving away next week's episode. So
Exactly.
there's only one way to find out what's going to happen, and that's by tuning in. So thank you all the viewers, and have great weeks, and maybe we'll see you on Monday for a live challenge at Monday Music Mayhem, 6 p.m.
Exciting. See you all then.
It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.